Right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's the welcome to the Huddersfield Planning Committee. And from what I've got on my paper here, all members are present. So item 2, minutes of previous meeting. Is somebody prepared to move that? Check. Although you did chair that, I would.
Yeah, happy to.
I would hope that you would. And is that seconded? Somebody.
I can second it.
Right. Second. All those in favour? No. Are we having show of hands or is it?
For this one, you can.
Right. Please indicate by show of hands.
Yeah.
All that were present, obviously.
Yeah. Moved.
Thank you. So we'll go around now. Interest and lobbying. First of all, we'll start with Councillor McGuinn. Councillor McGuinn.
Yeah, nothing to declare, Chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Sokol. Councillor Sokol.
None, Chair.
Councillor Marchington.
None, Chair.
Councillor Smith. You're on mute.
I've
You're
been
on mute.
lobbied. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can now.
Apologies. I've been lobbied on item 7, hip hops. I would also like to speak to that item as well, if that's okay, Chair.
Well, you'll get the opportunity once we'll give it over to councillors. Yes. Councillor Davies.
Nothing from me, Chair. Thanks.
Councillor Bellamy.
None, Chair.
Councillor Uppel.
None, Chair.
Councillor Sarwar.
None, Chair.
Councillor Homewood.
None, Chair.
Councillor Firth.
Yeah, 2020/90691, the Wooldale one, the last one on. And I haven't predetermined anything yet. I'm going to see how the meeting goes. Listen to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Shakeola.
None, Chair.
And myself, finally, I've had none. Right, we'll move on then to item 4, mission of the public. Richard, have we? Any?
Yes, everything's going to be.
Everything's as is. Yeah. Deputations, petitions, I'm not aware of.
None received, Chair.
No. Public question time. Where again? No questions.
No questions received, Chair.
So we move on then to the planning applications. So page 15, which is the hip hop beer shop.
It's not there, Nick.
Hip hop.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Emma Thompson, and I'll be presenting this to members today.
Please do so.
Sure.
She's on mute. That's right.
Apologies, Chair. We just got a bit of a technical hitch, so we're just swapping screens to enable us to show the appropriate slides. Just bear with us while we just go through that. I'll be back in a minute.
Thanks for that.
Mute.
Can members see the title page, Hip Hop's Beer Shop?
I certainly can.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Right, okay. Right, bear with us then.
Ah. Next to Eric's.
I can't hear anything.
Okay.
Sorry. Emma, can you hear us? I think you're on mute.
She is on mute.
Emma, you're on mute.
I can't hear anything.
Ah, she's.
Yeah.
Oh no, she's.
Yeah. Emma, yeah, she's going to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, okay, I'll start the slides again. So Hip Hop's Beer Shop. 77 Lidgett Street is a two-storey mid-terrace property located in Lindley District Centre. It's adjacent to a restaurant on one side and a retail shop on the other, with a residential flat above. It is proposed to change the use from retail alone to a mixed use comprising retail and the sale of alcoholic drinks for consumption on the premises. These are the proposed floor plans. Customer seating comprises 6 stools, which are these 3 here and here, and a bench with up to 7 seats on the ground floor. The upper floor is for storage and customer washroom. Hours of use would be from 10 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock in the evening, 7 days a week. Retail would remain the principal use of the premises. The introduction of an A4 use is considered to complement the retail function of Lindley District Centre. Given the highly accessible location, it is not considered to give rise to highway safety issues, and given the scale and nature of the use, it is also unlikely to give rise to crime and disorder concerns. It's recognised that the proposed use could generate more noise than the existing. The main factor here is to be considered is noise transmission to the adjacent flat, which I'll go back to the photograph, which is this flat above the retail premises here, as this is the only noise sensitive property sharing a party wall with the site. An acoustic report and further supplementary report provides further recommendations in respect of noise mitigation measures. The details have been assessed by colleagues in environmental health. It is considered that the details set out are acceptable, and with the addition of conditions as set out in section 12 of your report and update, are sufficient to deal with any outstanding matters and to manage the operations of the premises going forward. Subject to conditions, it is considered that the development would comply with all relevant policies and not give rise to any adverse impacts upon occupants of the adjoining property or the wider area. Thank you, Chair. Nothing further to add.
Right. Richard, have we?
Yes, Chair, we have a number of speakers. The first one is a Stuart Brown who objects to the proposal. So I'll just try and ring him now.
Thank you.
Fine. Is that...
That's fine.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Fire away then. Thank you.
Okay. My objections and concerns are over the A4 application, which could add further problems to the antisocial behaviour in the area that has been going on for quite some time, including 2 separate bin fires, 2 break-ins, all in the past 12 weeks, all of which took place within 100 metres of myself and the shop concerned. The police were called, and after a conversation with them, the idea of them calling more often in the area at night was a possibility. As for my own personal concerns, I think a more appropriate time for closing the shop could be 10 p.m. due to the possibility of extra noise being created by the increase in customers. This possible noise level has not been tested as yet. In line with environmental health, I would like some form of assurance that the noise level, both airborne and structural, through the party wall on the first and second floors would not exceed 55 dBs. Up and downstairs wall insulation was also talked about as a possibility on the party wall with Adam, who indicated that this could be fitted if necessary. As shown by environmental health, it would be very important to me the inability to hear music through the party wall into my flat. After 10 years of living here, all these problems have the ability to affect my quality of life. Thanking you for your time in this matter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, we now have, I'll get through to hopefully Daniel Dennett, who is the applicant.
Hello, Mr. Dennett. Are you ready to submit?
Yeah.
Right. Please go ahead.
So to start with, just a little bit of background into the business. So last year, we opened our door and fulfilled the dream of 4 passionate craft beer lovers who wanted to create something niche and exciting to service the people of a Great Lindley village and beyond. This is something we talked about for years. And as I've lived in Lindley for the past 15 years, making it available on the high street, we decided to take the plunge. Over a year from opening, the craft beer revolution is still gathering pace. We believe that people want bigger choices and to sample and compare different beers from a broad range of styles.
So, Mr. Dennett, can I just stop you there a minute, please? Because we're struggling to hear you. I just want to check with members whether they can hear you. Right, okay. Members, can we hear?
Do we need to lift his voice? I found it that it keeps his voice low. I think if he lifts his voice, I think it will be clearer.
Right. Sorry, Mr. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Do you want me to start again?
Yes, if you could. Yes, please. And then if you could obviously just speak a little louder, that would be helpful. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So to start with, just a little bit of background into the business. Last June, we opened our door and fulfilled the dream of 4 passionate craft beer lovers that wanted to create something niche and exciting to service the people of a growing Lindley village and beyond. This is something we talked about for years, and as I lived in Lindley for the past 15 years, and with a vacant unit being available on the high street, we decided to take the plunge. Over a year from opening, the craft beer revolution is still gathering pace. We believe that people want bigger choices and to sample and compare different beers from a broad range of styles. We're lucky that the UK has hundreds of fantastic microbreweries, and this number is increasing. Beers are sourced far and wide, and we are confident in the depth of the quality of craft beers to accommodate and surpass our customers' needs, as well as differentiate us from the majority. It's also worth noting that we stock 5 breweries based locally in Huddersfield. We have a core range of 40 to 50 beers covering pale ales, IPAs, sours, saison, stouts, the list goes on. On top of our core range, we also house around 150 special beers, which we continually update to reflect emerging breweries, new special edition beers, and outstanding collaborations. We took a lot of time to get the interior of the shop correct, which reflects the trendy, growing surrounding area of the Lindley village. A rustic, raw, industrial look is combined with a slick, modern, high-end finish to give a craft beer shop for everyone to enjoy. A few months after opening, we realised there was a big demand for people to enjoy a drink or two on the premise,
30 seconds.
with a number of our existing customer base requesting this. Last October, we submitted our planning application. Our vision is for people to sample our beer on a small scale in relaxed surroundings, which complements our off-premise sales. We really do believe we brought something different to Lindley, and with the addition of a mixed-use premise, there's even more for people to enjoy. So far, we've invested a lot of time, effort and money into this venture, which is our first step into the business world. And we really do believe that the outcome of this application is crucial in taking our business to the next level and create something that hopefully will thrive for years to come. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm now going to try and get hold of Hamish Gledhill, who is the agent.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gledhill, are you prepared?
Yes, I'm ready, thank you, Chair.
Right, carry on then.
Yes, I'm Hamish Gledhill. I'm a planning consultant representing the applicant on this matter. This application was submitted 14 months ago in August last year, and for a relatively straightforward application, has taken a long time to get where we are today, with it being recommended for approval at this planning meeting. I believe much of this delay has been caused by a complete misunderstanding of the proposals by a few local residents. To be clear, the proposed development is not for a pub or a bar or a nightclub. It's to maintain the current use as a shop, but with a simple addition of allowing customers to remain on the premises to try some of the local independent craft beer that is sold there. The additional use is no more than an ancillary function to primary retail use. For those of you who have visited the premises will appreciate that it's not large enough to provide anything more than a small shop with enough space for a handful of people to sit down to sample the beers and offer within the shop. It's physically not large enough to be a pub or a bar or a club. Any antisocial problems in the area can't be attributed to this proposal. In planning policy terms, the proposed development has everything going for it. It maintains a retail use in an already vibrant district centre. It maintains an act, but rather than closing at 5 o'clock, it will remain open, adding to the vibrant evening economy of Lindley. Not only does the proposed development maintain the attractiveness of the centre for daytime visitors, but increases the attractiveness for evening visitors. The proposed list of conditions ensures that the proposed development will not impact on residential amenity. There has been considerable sound testing with this application, and the relevant officers are satisfied that proposed mitigation measures will prevent any issues arising. I hope that members will see the benefits and merits of the proposed development and will support this planning application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hamish.
Okay.
Is it members now, Richard?
I've got one submission from Councillor Burke on behalf of the Lindley Ward councillors, if I may read that out on his behalf.
Yes.
Okay, so it says, we, all Lindley councillors, support the independent business in Lindley and the young ex-Huddersfield University students who have taken on this vacant unit to bring a specialist shop into the area. This application seeks to help and give options by offering a try before you buy service for their beer, which is a welcome use on a very small scale. The entrepreneurs should be given every support in their enterprise in challenging times. They are a small independent business bringing something niche and exciting to Lindley, which is what villages like this are all about. So, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Members.
I think Councillor Smith and Councillor Uller have also.
Councillor Smith, and then followed by Councillor Uller.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to build on the statement which was submitted on behalf of the Lindley councillors by Councillor Burke. This is not an establishment that people are going to be dropping into for a few pints. The physical size of the building will not support that sort of activity. This is clearly an application designed to support and enhance the off-shelf sales which already happen on the premises. In terms of the antisocial behaviour, I am aware of the antisocial behaviour that was mentioned by the objector previously. I don't see how that is in any way related to this existing business and how this change of use would contribute to that antisocial behaviour whatsoever. This is a small quality ale niche business. What they want is a little bit of space in order to allow customers to sample the beer. I'm in full support of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ola.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few comments. The first one, I mean, I think I would agree. I think there's been a little bit of a misunderstanding because it's an already in use shop. The concerns that I had was around the sound and the acoustics, but I think that's been the proposed mitigation has been addressed on that. With regards to the antisocial behaviour, I mean, I like Anthony. I mean, I can't really see that being like an attributing factor at all. I'm happy to second the recommendation of the officers. Thank you.
Any further? Councillor Sokol. Councillor Sokol.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I actually put on the chat box speak. I don't know, somehow it did not come up my name. Yeah. Chair. This weekend, actually, I had a site visit. It was on Saturday about 7 o'clock. I just walk up there to look around this shop. Yeah. It's just like it's a small shop area. When you see this on the video, it looks a big place. Yeah, I don't know why. It's only beer rack is on one by the wall, and the other side a little counter, and I saw there is only one small table and 2 chairs there. I don't think they can put many people in that shop. Yeah, it is a shop. It's like a shop anyway. It's not like a bar or club or restaurant. Yeah, I don't think that 6 or 7 people make any noise. Yeah, so it's a shop. It's within the Lindley shopping area. We seen up and down in the country business lost. People are trying to pick up their business. Yeah. So I don't see any problem honestly, Chair. I think as agent has said, it's not a bar, it's not a club. Actually, I've seen next door on the evening, it's a restaurant called Eric, I think. Eric, yeah? There's a club. I've seen a lot of people going up there. I think it's on the first floor. There is a noise. Noise should come from there. I don't think it will come from this hip hop shop. Yeah. With regard to social antisocial behavior, because there is already a couple of 2 or 3 pubs there. Antisocial behavior caused by them, and not. I don't think even any more antisocial behavior will be generated by this business. So I'm in support of officer recommendation. Thank you.
Right now, Councillor Uller, you said you'd second the officer, but really I need one of the committee to propose and second.
I was waiting for Councillor Smith, but I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation if it helps.
Yes. Who's second? Is that seconded? Councillor Marchington, you put your hand up first there. Seconded by Councillor Marchington. All those in... Sorry?
We've still got 3 more speakers.
3 more speakers? Oh, sorry.
Councillor Apple, I think.
Oh, right. Where did they show them? Because
on that side, right.
on the right-hand side, right. Excuse my ignorance here. I've now got it. Thank you.
Councillor Uppel.
Yes, Councillor Uppel.
I think
Thank you, Chair. Quite a few of the points have already been raised, so I'll be very quick. Obviously, I think we all want to support this local business, and I am minded to support it, but I am sympathetic to 79A given the adjoining wall. I think a lot of the noise mitigation measures that are in place will do a good job. There were just a couple of points. There was one about the rear door to the shop, and there were some concerns about the noise there, and I just want to make sure that can be included in that is included in mitigation measures. And then there was a point about change of use to the applicant only. Given that this change of use will turn into a drinking establishment once the applicant leaves, sorry, I shouldn't say that, if the applicant leaves and another one comes in, I would just be a little bit concerned. I know there'd be another application coming in, but once you've got that A4 use in, I would just be a bit concerned about that. And I'm just wondering if there would be any opportunity around the change of use to applicant only. Those were just the 2 points. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Marchington.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the concerns about noise, appreciate that the applicant's actually gone to some efforts to mitigate against that, and that just needs keeping an eye on and being sensitive and make sure that's working. Yeah, I'm quite happy to second the officer recommendation. I think the proposed use complements the existing retail operation, but also I think it complements that part of Linley as well. It adds to the diversity of the particular. You've got some interesting premises along there. As Councillor Sokol has indicated, there's also restaurant use along there, and I think that would be, this seems to be more that combination of retail and sampling. That seems to be the more thrust of the application rather than another drinking establishment. The ability to drink there is incidental to the operation as opposed to being the main function. But I'm interested with what Councillor Rupal has said about just making sure that continues to be the case in the future, which I'm sure it will. Thank you.
Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I think really most of the points I was going to raise have been covered, but just, I certainly support this. I think, as has been described, this is very much a sort of niche sort of approach, particularly with the craft beers. And I think, the sort of clientele that will attract is certainly, not the type of clientele that probably would be causing issues around the town. It's a very different type of premise in that sense. And as Councillor Marchington said, it's not the primary concern of creating a bar or a pub. It's something that's complementary to the retail activity there. So yeah, certainly supported it, particularly as other people said, now that the acoustic issues, there seem to be some good mitigating measures being put in place. So definitely supported. Thank you.
Thank you. The legal officer now wanted to make a contribution, I understand.
No, sorry, no, I didn't. I can do if you want to on the permission, but I didn't want to say anything at the moment.
Oh, I'm getting mixed messages.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. It's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour?
We need to do the roll count. So if you want me to go to vote, I'll go around individually.
Yes, I do want to go to vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So obviously this is a vote now for accepting the recommendation to approve the officer recommendation. So Councillor Davis.
Yes, support the recommendation.
Councillor Bellamy.
For.
Councillor Firth.
You're on mute.
I am for.
Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Marchington.
You're on mute.
For.
Councillor McQueen.
For.
Councillor Sawar.
For.
Councillor Smith.
Chair, as I've been lobbied, I need to abstain on this.
Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Allah.
For.
Councillor Uppal.
For.
And Councillor Lyons.
For.
Okay, so that's 11 for, 1 abstention. So officer recommendation is approved.
Thank you. We move on now then to page 27, and it's St Luke's Hospital, or former St Luke's Hospital, Blackmore Foot Road, Crossland Moor.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm that you can see the slide now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. St Luke's was a former hospital site. The hospital site closed in 2011 and the buildings were demolished around 2015. Planning permission has been granted previously for 226 dwellings on the site across 2 separate planning applications. The full planning history is detailed within the report before members. Before proceeding, please be aware that an error in the recommendation has been identified. The contributions listed in the recommendation are those initially proposed to the committee on the previous applications. However, the committee at the time requested further viability information. That was provided, and at a subsequent meeting, members approved contributions of, across the 2 sites, 11 starter homes, the provision and future maintenance of on-site public open space, off-site highway works and traffic light signal improvements, and market the commercial area for housing for a period of 3 years with a stipulation that policy compliant affordable housing be provided. Apologies for this error. However, the current recommendation remains to simply replicate the contributions previously secured on the site as part of this application. So development has commenced on site of the dwellings. One of the permissions, that lined in the plan, that lined blue on the plan, as can be seen here, approved 200 dwellings and the access from Blackmore Foot Road. There is an ongoing application for a replan of that site as well, to reduce the dwellings from 200 to 195. The other original application, which is relevant to this current application, approved 26. This application seeks a replan to the 26 dwellings within the red line of the plan, which can be seen here. This current image shows the previously approved layout of 26 dwellings for comparison purposes. To be clear, this is not part of the current application. This plan shows the proposed layout. Through changing detached dwellings to semi-detached and other modifications, the current proposal seeks a total of 31 dwellings on the site compared to the previously approved 26. Some of the properties not to be subdivided would have their house types changed as well. The plots in green before you are those which have either had their house types changed or have been subdivided from detached to semi-detached pairs. A full assessment of the replan's impact is contained within the report before members. In summary, the proposed replan is not considered detrimental to any material planning considerations, with the impact of the proposal remaining as previously assessed. The new units are visually attractive and similar in design to those previously approved on site, and will not harm the residential amenity of future occupiers or neighbouring residents. The highway arrangement remains fundamentally as previously approved. While this proposal will increase the number of units by 5 within this part of the site, the ongoing application to replan the remainder of the site will have a reduction in 5, therefore retaining the number of units across the whole site as 226. Therefore, the previously agreed contributions are unaffected. A section 106 is to be drafted to tie all previously negotiated and agreed contributions to the new planning layout. No public representations have been received. The proposed replan has minimal impact and will enable the developer to continue to bring forward a difficult brownfield site for housing, which is welcomed. Officers therefore recommend approval, subject to the given conditions and finalising the section 106 to simply repeat the previously approved planning contributions. Nothing further to add, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no speakers for this, Chair.
So it's over to the committee members.
Yeah.
Any speakers? Anybody wish to contribute? Councillor Sokol, want to speak?
I think Councillor
Apple, right. We'll have Councillor Sokol first. Then.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. Yeah. This development issue is going on since 2011 when St. Luke Hospital was closed. Yeah. It nearly 9 years now. We need to see something to be done quickly there. Yesterday afternoon, I went there in my own car, and I parked car in front of on the Blackmoor Port Road, where the building. I've seen the work. It's going so nicely. The developer already putting the road and the pavement and the fence, protecting the terrace houses on the other side, and the grass area as well there. And I did not see any problem. The developer is going through that to complete the development. I'm quite happy with that. But on this one issue, yeah, it's still going on for a long time. We need to see it to be completed as quickly as possible. I don't see any problem there. We need housing in the area, especially in Blackmoor Port, around Blackmoor Port area. So I'm happy to move the officer recommendation to approve this application.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Uppel. Councillor Uppel. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Just took me a while to turn the mute button off, should I say. I just wanted to ask the officer, Nick, that the density is higher now. So can I just ask what it is, and is it in line with our standard for density in Kirklees?
20%.
Through you, Chair. The density remains as previously approved, but no, it is below what was required by the local plan. But that was because most of this application and the principle was established before the local plan came into effect. Again, while this application is increasing the units by 5 across the whole site, the replan on the adjacent site is reducing by 5, so it remains consistent with previous approvals. Thank you.
Okay, it just says in the report the replan would have a higher density compared to that previously approved. Is that just for that plot then?
Sorry, yes, apologies if that was unclear.
No, that's okay.
This is just this part.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Bellamy, you're down to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, like we said, it's been going on a long time, and I'm, more than happy to sort of support building on brownfield. I still do have concerns regarding the road. I know there's 106 money for the junction at the bottom. I still think probably work needs to be done further up as well, because not everybody will go down all the, whatever the traffic is from there, it will not just go down and through the junction at the bottom at Long Ride Bridge. It's a lot of it will go up as well and end up coming up through Linthwaite and that sort of way, because that'll be an easier option for the motorway. So I still do have some concerns regarding that. I just can't understand why this keeps coming back and why there's so many change of plans. It just seems to be, they get it and then why the change? So if anybody could put any clarification on why all these changes, I'd be interested to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? That's it, isn't it? Somebody, I think Councillor Sokol originally moved the officer's recommendation. Is that seconded? Seconded by Councillor Uller. All those in favour? It's up to now,
okay,
Richard.
I will do. Thank you. So this is to approve the officer recommendation. Councillor Davis.
Councillor Davis.
Apologies, you broke up there, Richard. I couldn't hear. 4.
Thank you. Councillor Bellamy.
Abstain.
Councillor Firth.
4.
Councillor Homewood.
4.
Councillor Marchington.
4.
Councillor McGuinn.
4.
Councillor Sawa.
4.
Councillor Smith.
4.
Councillor Sokol.
4.
Councillor Allah.
4.
Councillor Uppel.
4.
Councillor Lyons.
4.
So that's 11 for, 1 abstain. So officer recommendation is approved.
Right, the next application, page 39, 75 Wooldale Road, Wooldale, Home Firth.
Thank you, Chair. This is a retrospective application which first came about due to a planning enforcement complaint. The application was requested to come before subcommittee by Councillor Firth for the reasons set out in your report. 4 representations have been received, 3 have been received in support and 1 in objection to the proposals as outlined in your report. The application site is located to the rear of number 75 Wooldale Road. The parcel of land adjoins the domestic curtilage of this property, which is also owned by the applicant. The site is approximately 0.2 hectares in size. And from looking at Google Maps, you can just see the outline of the existing shed where it is located within the site, shown here. The shed measures approximately 7.4 metres by 5.5 metres with an approximate ridge height of 3.1 metres. The shed is constructed from timber walls with timber doors and polycarb windows. The roof consists of pitch sheet timber with plastic sheeting. These couple of photos show the size, design and context of the chicken shed and how it sits within the site. These photographs show numbers 73 and 75 Wooldale Road, which are located to the west of the chicken shed. Both of these properties are Grade 2 listed buildings. The second photo shows the view looking south from the chicken shed. The proposed development is located within the designated green belt, whereby as set out in the National Planning Policy Framework, the construction of new buildings, save for certain exceptions, is inappropriate development. The construction of buildings for agriculture is one such exception. Policy LP54 of the Kirklees local plan qualifies this in requiring such buildings to be genuinely required for the purpose of agriculture. Information submitted with the application has failed to demonstrate that the building is genuinely required for the purpose of agriculture and as such is contrary to policy LP54A of the Kirklees local plan, being inappropriate development in the green belt. The application is not accompanied by any other very special circumstances to justify the development. As such, the application is recommended for refusal as set out in your report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We have a submission from Councillor Patrick with your permission I can read out, and yes. We also have a representation from the applicant. So I'll do the submission from Councillor Patrick first.
That's
and then
fine.
I'll try and get hold of the applicant. So this is from Councillor Patrick. I do not exaggerate when I say this is like a Monty Python sketch. We have a chicken shed or hen oil built in a field on a small holding, and in it there are hens. The planning officer says it cannot be demonstrated that the building, a chicken shed with hens in it, is required for agricultural purposes. The planning officer is happy that the chicken shed plus hens is appropriate in size, scale and design, with no harm to the listed building or to the conservation area, and accords with LP 24 and 24 and Chapter 12 of the MPPF. Overlooking is not a problem, and there is no impact on bats, but possibly some concern expressed in relation to hens breaking wind and the impact that they may have on climate change, though not sufficient apparently to warrant an objection. I could show the planning committee a number of sheds built in a green belt, supposed to be for agricultural use, approved by this LPA under officer delegation, that have never seen a cow, sheep, pig or even a hen. Plenty of stable blocks built which are not agricultural. Why then, all of a sudden, is this small hen oil full of hens to be recommended for refusal? Can this be a foul slur on hens? Are hens not farmed? Are hens not agricultural? It has to be approved, surely. Right, so I'm now going to try and get through to Matthew Weatherburn, who's the applicant.
Hello there. You've got 3 minutes if you'd like to. Is it comfortable for you to speak now, or do you need some time?
No, I'm all right. I'm just a bit out of breath, that's all. I'll fire away.
Thank you.
Okay. I've owned the land for approximately 18 years, of which I've kept chickens on several occasions in different sheds within the same land, of which photos of said sheds were submitted to Kirklees as proof. I feel I've been unfairly treated as there are several other poultry smallholders within the home valley doing the same. I have an appropriate agricultural holding number. I have a purpose-built poultry shed sited on agricultural land. It clearly serves an agricultural purpose. In keeping hens for the production of food, in my case eggs, it is clearly in agricultural use and operation, but Kirklees planning officers failed to agree with this as agriculture. Kirklees planning policy states that I do not have to provide a shelter for my chickens because I'm deemed a hobby farmer and that this isn't my sole or principal income. Who makes these rules up? They really need to familiarise themselves with keeping livestock, looking after greenbelt and basic farming requirements. I have the same genuine requirement and legal requirements to provide appropriate care for my hens as a farmer does with a flock of 12,000. The vast majority of my eggs produced have been sold with a few kept back for my home family. Eggs are sold at the gate, but this resulted in local people knocking on my door, wanting to buy or ordering eggs when I've sold out. During the height of COVID, this was understandably not wanted, and I felt discouraged given the unknown risks at the time. We therefore downsized the flock. Please note the flock will be increased again as soon as it's safe to do so. My application was submitted, and I see it as follows. Kirklees listed buildings, no objections. Kirklees public right-of-way, no objections. Kirklees trees, no objections. Kirklees highways, no objections. Kirklees environmental, no objections, but a couple of conditions that I will agree to. Parish council, no objections, in fact, support. Immediate neighbours, only ones that can see the shed on the property, no objections, in fact, they were buying eggs from me. In fact, the only complainant is a local resident who blatantly flouts planning laws herself, having carried out various alterations to a listed building with no consent. Furthermore, this objector also keeps chickens, albeit a handful or so, no planning permission for her shed. I feel I've played fair with Kirklees and have done everything by the book with all projects in my land. I've spent several thousands of pounds maintaining and looking after the land. Now find myself staring at planning refusal for a 7.3 by 5.4 metre purpose-built shed for a flock of 30 warrens, only reduced due to impact of risks associated with COVID-19. Also, previously suggested Kirklees planning, happy to condition to be imposed for the removal of poultry shed if I stop keeping the hens. It's well-known prerequisite for hen keeping to appropriate shelter, nest boxes, egg-laying hens, purchase appropriate space, is secured from dusk to dawn to prevent foxes, mink, badgers and other predators simply taking them. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weatherburn.
Thank you.
That's it, Chair.
That's it. We haven't got the objector speaking then. No.
No.
Members. Councillor McGuinn. And then Councillor Homewood.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, brilliant. I think the only issue really is whether it is agricultural, because there's no objection to any other grounds.
You're dropping your voice, Bernard.
It could only be that the only objection could be that it's not connected to agriculture. But if there's only chicken kept in there, then it must be logically that it is agriculturally based. And I think there's an issue about whether it is a business. And I think permitted a hobby business. It's whether, so the issue for us is whether we accept a hobby business as an agricultural concern. So I'm minded to accept this, and I move to allow to approve the application. So I asked, put my for approval. Thank you.
Now we've got Councillor Homewood, I said, then Councillor Bellamy, then Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just following on from that, I just wanted, I don't know whether perhaps the officer can provide a bit more guidance on this, but when I'm just looking at it, obviously there's reference in here to a hobby farm, and it says that usually wouldn't meet the definition required. I just wanted to understand if that's actually a formal definition or something under this, under the rules here, because to me, what this is saying is that basically, if you live in a rural area in the green belt, you can't keep chickens, which to me seems a bit crazy. You know, I appreciate it's quite a large building, but presumably suggestion is it's suitable for what it's been used for, and just seems to me not reasonable to say that because you live in the green belt in an area which, like you say, is considered a small holding here, you can't have provision for this. So to me, you know, I don't know whether it's an interpretation of the rules or what, but it just doesn't seem quite right to me. So I'd be inclined to support what Councillor McGuinn's saying, but I'm happy for if the officer can provide any clarification on that, and whether it's our interpretation of what constitutes a hobby farm or an agricultural business would be helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. Well, when's a hen oil not agricultural? Obviously, when it's a chicken shed. Well, I can't understand how it's not agricultural. I mean, it's clearly there. It's full of chickens. To me, that, you know, if you've got 30, as was said, that's clearly, you know, past hobby. I think hobby's probably about half a dozen, if anything. I think, you know, if you've got 30 chickens, then it's pretty serious stuff. So I'm quite happy to second Councillor McGuinn and go for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've just gone through this report, especially this statement from Councillor Donald really provide an interesting history of the Home Valley farming community. They produce they produce wool for textile. They provided now the eggs, good quality eggs for the community in the area. It's really interesting yet to know that. Now, Donald say, because most of the textile have gone now, but there is a residential area now development going on. So the community really need good quality eggs. I agree with Donald on this one. Chair, only few weeks ago, I was on the strategic planning committee meeting. It was a similar shed. I think Donald might know. Donald was on the committee. The officer actually, no, the committee approved that application. On the ground is only small shed, and it was next door to, I think, listed building or something like that, and it was in the green belt. So I don't see any difference between that one and this one. This one is like, look, as my colleagues have said, is it in the agriculture? It's being used by the farming. So I don't see how the officer recommending to refuse it, it's very difficult for me to support officer recommendation. I think I go along with the member who proposed and moved and seconded. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councillor Sokol. At this juncture, I've got the officer that wishes to come back. She's got in the queue, and I'm prepared now to let her speak.
Thank you,
So,
Chair. Thank you, Chair. Just to come back on a couple of points with regards to the question about hobby farm. The dictionary definition is a small farm operated primarily for pleasure rather than profit. So that's what constitutes a hobby farm. We understand that that the operation isn't for profit, that the applicant works, and as a consequence, we've concluded that it's primarily as a pastime or an interest rather than an agricultural purpose. With regards to the local plan, there is a section within the local plan that states that the construction of buildings for agriculture and forestry is not inappropriate in the green belt, and new buildings to support such enterprises will be supported, provided that they are genuinely required in connection with an agricultural or forestry enterprise and that their need can be demonstrated. This will depend on the extent and type of the holding in question and will be unlikely to apply to hobby farms, usually defined as those where the enterprise is not the applicant's main, principal or full-time occupation or business. It is also unlikely to apply to a building solely for the purpose of providing security for agricultural implements. So that's within our own local plan and has been applied to this application in this instance. And officers have concluded that it isn't a genuine agricultural need and as a consequence is inappropriate development. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Marchington, and then we've got Councillor Firth here asking, can I vote? I'd like to join.
I think you probably want to speak after Councillor.
I take it you wish to speak, Councillor Firth, after Councillor Marchington.
Yes,
right.
I would like to.
Yeah, right. Councillor Marchington, please.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I mean, the agricultural definition, it sounds a bit strange, but it seems to be a question of scale. Is it primarily an agricultural business, or is it something that's incidental and pleasure? It does seem a bit, I mean, particularly minded what Councillor Holmwood said is, you know, does this mean you can't keep chickens anywhere in the green belt? And green belt creates issues for us, and particularly where you live on the edge of the green belt. And I know we've had a number of applications come through for us for potentially rural, you know, stabling of horses and other stuff on the edge of the green belt. And what does concern me is what Councillor Patrick has said, and I think this is important when it comes stuff like this comes to committee in the future, about all sorts of buildings being approved in the green belt with ostensibly legitimate agricultural purposes, which are not being used for those purposes. And I think elsewhere we need to be very mindful of that. And if a building is not being used for agricultural purposes, hobby or otherwise, that is a big concern. What does make me a bit more sympathetic to this application in terms of its use is the applicant saying that if it's no longer needed for the keeping of hens, then it will be removed. And I think, I mean, that's so if the building's no longer needed for that agricultural purpose, small or large, it's going to be removed. And I think we do need to be mindful that the building is used for what it's approved for use, which is the keeping of hens, the protecting of hens, and not used for other reasons. And if that is done elsewhere, then we need to be, I think particularly needs to be action about that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Chair. Well, basically, I brought this to the committee because this gentleman was rather upset that he was going to have it refused. Now, I put in my paperwork. I mean, if I'm not allowed to vote, then I won't vote. But I would like to tell you all about what's happened up there. This gentleman has got a small holding licence, a small agricultural holding licence for the use of it. He could have as many as 500 hens on that particular plot there if he desired. It is an horticultural piece of land, horticulture underlined agriculture. He bought that a number of years ago. It used to be part of a market garden or local Wooldale Garden Centre a long number of years ago. Now, what he's done, he's made it really, the improvements, I know how many have you been to look. I looked about, it's a couple of 3 months I went up to look. What's he done? He's dry stone walled, he's got a lovely lawn there, he's got his hens roaming about. The hut, yes, it is quite large, but you've got to remember this. He also has not just got to keep his hens in that hut, he's got to keep dry feed, he's got to keep hay, etc. It is part and parcel of the setup. It's not only a hen hut, it is also a place where he stores the food for the hens and, of course, hay for the nest boxes. And as for keeping hens not being agricultural, can I just tell you, when my father was living, we have a farm. And when he was living with 4,000 hens on that farm, with 25 hen huts, we never once put a plan in to any council because it was automatic. You were farming and that was it. You put your hen hut up, we lit them all up, and at one time we had more than 4,000 hens. So, that doesn't wash with me at all, what the officers are saying. If I can't vote, then I will just simply abstain. I need some guidance now from Terry or from the officer whether I can vote.
Well, on that, Councillor Firth, yes, we'll need to go to the legal officer for her,
Yeah. Okay.
well, either approval or not.
It's for Councillor Firth to decide. I mean, he said at the beginning he's not predetermined it, but if he feels better to make a decision not to vote, not to vote.
Well,
It's your call,
well, listen, I don't want to upset everybody and cause a riot, but so I will abstain and leave it to you people. You can rest assured, I do want it to go through. I haven't been and looked and talked to this guy over the years. I've known him a long time, not a lot, but a fair long time, and I think he's doing a good job. And he's made that little corner of Wooldale very nice. It's lovely. And for those who haven't been, you must go up and have a look. Thank you.
Well, on the basis of that, I've had this now proposed and seconded for opposition to what the officer are putting forward. In other words, they've got opposition, but the proposal is for acceptance.
Yeah, I think Councillor Davis wants to come in.
Does Councillor Davis wish to?
Yeah, I'll try and be brief. I don't think I'm probably going to add a lot to the discussion. Clearly, as has already been said, this is around the definition, isn't it, of what is agriculture or not in terms of agricultural business. And I'm thankful, I have to say, to Emma, the officer, for explaining that to us. And I think members obviously need to treat that information with respect as well, which I think people have done. But I suppose what we're all feeling is the sort of common sense of looking at this, looking at where it is, looking at all the various conditions it does meet. It does seem to some degree a little perverse not to approve it, but we do take on board there is a very clear definition, as explained by the officer, around this. What I was going to ask Emma is, what I'm a little bit confused is, as Councillor Firth has explained, the applicant is registered as a smallholder. So is that still the case, that a smallholder would be regarded as a hobby farmer rather than something which would be closer to an agricultural enterprise?
I'll ask the officer to come in on this, Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. With any agricultural building, we'd assess the need according to information that had been submitted with an application. So in any agricultural circumstance, we would expect a detailed setting out of supporting information to demonstrate that any agricultural unit is required or new building is required to support the functions of a farm. Clearly, this is a standalone building located within the green belt adjacent to a residential property. Incidentally, and I was going to add earlier that Environmental Health have confirmed that no more than 30 chickens should be allowed at the site. So that would need to be a stipulation of should members go against officer recommendation. So again, that also demonstrates that level of agricultural function that for officers isn't justifiable in terms of it being an agricultural economically agricultural business. So I think hopefully I've explained officers' assessment of the proposals, and I'll leave it to members to make that obviously final decision. Thank you, Chair.
Right, well, thank you for that. Are there any further speakers? No? Well, so I've got a proposal that we go against the officer's recommendation, that we allow this application to go through. Now, we've also got, I'll take it later about the conditions, but all those in favour?
Yeah, okay,
Richard?
that's fine. Yeah, so this is the vote to approve the application, and I presume what that means is that the members believe it to be appropriate development for application. So if I can start with Councillor Davis.
Yeah, for.
Councillor Bellamy.
For.
Councillor Firth has abstained. I've confirmed, Councillor Firth, you're abstained, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Martinson.
For.
Councillor McGuinn.
For.
Councillor Sawa.
For.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Haller.
For.
Councillor Uppel.
For.
Councillor Lyons.
For.
Okay, so that's the 11 voted for, 1 abstention. So the decision is to approve the application.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure legally here, but with regard to these conditions now, is the committee prepared to take that on or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, we'll have a formal. Well, I'll go through it formally, please, Richard, with regard to the conditions.
Yeah, Emma, are you able to come back in and just summarise exactly what we'll be voting on, please?
Yeah, that's fine, Chair. I think in terms of the number of chickens within the shed would not exceed 30. So that would be one condition. That is something that's stipulated by Environmental Health, and is a restriction that we'd have to put on if we're minded to approve that application. In addition, obviously the removal of the building following cease of any use for the chicken. I think that would be the second condition.
You're tying him up.
Yes. So what you're saying is it's illegal. Can we have the legal person back then if you can impose this? Because it doesn't sit easy with me, doesn't it, at all?
I think.
No,
Yeah.
Councillor Sokol, no, I want the legal person to speak, please.
No.
I want the legal person.
Yeah, no, the conditions. There's not an issue. There's not an issue with the conditions that Emma's proposing.
There's not an issue, right?
I think, Chair, it's Julia Stedman, the group leader in development management. Can I just come in at this point? Is that okay?
Is that you, Julia?
It is, yeah. Am I all right
Yeah.
just to come in? Thanks.
Come on, mate.
So yeah, in terms of agricultural buildings, which is what members are suggesting that sort of the use of this building would be now, as Councillor Marchington pointed out earlier on, it is standard practice to impose a condition that does state that if a building isn't being used for agricultural purposes, if those are the grounds that you are approving it on, then if it's not used for a period of at least 6 months for agricultural purposes, then it should be removed from the site. So that is a standard condition that Kirklees has used for a number of years now. So that's that first the second condition that Emma mentioned there. In terms of the restriction to the number of chickens or hens being kept at the site, this is in the interest of protecting the amenity of the surrounding occupants. And it's like I say, it's suggested by environmental services, the imposition of that condition. So those are the reasons behind those conditions there. Thank you, Chair.
So where does that leave us now? I understand we take it. We've got to restrict it to 30. But as regards to 6 months business, that doesn't sit well at all.
I don't sit well at all with me.
Chair, there are
speakers.
Chair, there are a few
Speakers, Chair.
members that are wanting to speak as well.
Yeah.
Right. We've taken the vote, but yes, we'll have to extend it. I'm sure now. So we've had Julia, Councillor Alder.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Obviously, there has to be a number that's put on recommendation. The condition is regards to the numbers and the types of chickens that are kept. 8.3 of the report. The number 30 is that in guidelines with, I don't know, DEFRA or whoever. Firstly, that's the second one, and this 6 month thing. I'm a little bit confused about this 6 months thing because it's not clear at all. And if we're coming in at last minute and we're saying 6 months and we're saying 30, not 15, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, then I think we need to go back and look at that, because this committee have given a clear indication as to which way they want to go. Now we need clarity on all those bits. Thank you.
Well, I agree, and that is why I was trying to get clarity. We don't want to get hung up on a 6 month business when we believe, or the majority certainly believe, that otherwise. Councillor Martington.
I don't see a particular problem with the conditions that have been proposed. I mean, the applicant has already agreed that the building, to remove the building when it ceases to be. I mean, the 6 month issue, obviously we're in particular circumstance. It's just a standard clause, isn't it? I mean, obviously under the current circumstances, there's probably good reasons why the building's not been used for that purpose. For 6 months, and I think a degree of sensitivity over enforcement would be used in all those situations. So I think I'm fine with the condition on removing the building after it ceases to be used. We might want to put a longer time scale on it, but not more than 12 months, I wouldn't think. And the number of chickens, I mean, again, that is an issue about the we've all said that in terms of scale and everything, it's fine. It's the amenity value, but also in terms of the applicant, the 30 hens seems to be well within, give the applicant the scope to expand the flock that they've got at the moment. I think 12 at the moment, up to 24. There seems to be a bit of flexibility there, so I don't see what the problem with that condition is either. So I'm happy with both those conditions. Thank you.
Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, removal of the building if it ceases to be used for agriculture. To be honest, I haven't got a problem with providing. I'm not saying 6 months. It might need to be a little bit longer, and I'm a bit in agreement with Councillor Marchington by saying perhaps 12 months. I do have, though, concerns that we are going to limit, an agricultural business. He sells eggs to 30 chickens. I'm a bit concerned that we're saying, how many chickens he can have. That bit doesn't sit well with me at all. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got no issue at all with the condition for removal, because what we don't want is if the building stops being used for chickens and then turns into, a social building or something like that. So I've no issue with that. I've got a bit of an issue over saying how many chickens you can keep in that building. Should that be a function of the planning department? Is that not more to do with how many chickens the building can support and more for the RSPCA than us? Thank you, Chair.
Now, the officer wishes to come back here. I'm taking it in sequence here. Councillor, but the officer, Julia Stedman.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in terms of the number of chickens, it is a matter for members to consider, because what you need to take into account is I suppose the noise associated with them, the odour, the waste management linked in with that. I think a waste management plan was submitted with the application, which we would suggest to members that the applicant is sort of asked to follow that, and that would be secured by condition as well. What I was going to also suggest to members, would it be more appropriate to bring a report back to members which does include these conditions, just so that members are 100% clear what is being approved? That's something for consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Davies.
Yeah, repeating a lot of what people have said, I know. I haven't got a fundamental problem with either condition. Certainly the removal of the building, whether that's 6 months, 9 months or 12 months, I think is a debate that could be had. I also haven't got an issue with putting some limit because, you know, it is, to be fair, you know, an issue of amenity for neighbours as well. I don't know whether 30 is the limit, whether 40, 50, whatever the number is. So I think Julia's suggestion of a report with some more substance to it to come back to us would make perfect sense before we made a decision.
Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. My point is, Chair, we have already taken the vote, 11 in favour, to accept that chicken shed there. On the point of agriculture issue. Now we did not take the board with this condition be imposed. Now we are talking about different condition to impose on them. I don't know where we stand on this one. Why we taken the board? Do we want to retake the vote? It's not clear. I think we are going against the planning rules, might be.
We've taken the vote that it's all right to have chickens there, haven't we? What we've gone down to a finer point now of the number and the condition on if it's not being used for chickens in the future. The finer points that the officer has raised.
It should have been taken those before we take the vote.
But we have accepted the fact that the chickens can have them. They are there. Now, I would like we're going to go around in circles here, and I'm not going to get dizzy. Well, I think we should have the report back and consider that. But certainly for the time being, as far as this committee is concerned, we're accepting it.
Sandra, I think it might be helpful for a legal perspective here because we have taken a vote to approve. So we just need to be really clear on our grounds in terms of next steps, please, Sandra.
Yeah, I think that you've taken the vote, but it is contrary to officer recommendations. So I think what Julia says is to bring that back to be clear on that to a meeting. Thank you.
I think if that's the case, we would have to take another vote. I would have thought.
Fine.
From members, because we've obviously already had a mover and a seconder for approval that has gone through.
Yeah.
So I think we'd need obviously the mover and the seconder just to confirm whether they would, I suppose, effectively withdraw that motion, and we'd have to table another motion.
I'll move it.
Yeah, second that.
Yeah, just Councillor McGuinn has indicated he wanted to speak. I don't know if he wants to come in, does he?
Councillor McGuinn, did you want to come in and speak?
Yeah, I was the original proposer, so as far as I understood it, we were only looking at this particular shed, not the big. So we'll talk one particular shed, and I have no problems with what the officer says myself. It does make sense to me that you can't put more than 30 hens in that shed. Is that what we're saying? And it should clarify that, or whether you could have hundreds around the, because he has got a license for smallholding. I think that is a confusing thing now. I thought we were just talking about the shed. Not.
Just come in, Chair. So I think probably the best course of action will be to take another vote. I think the committee are minded to approve, but obviously I think the report will come back, will clarify the position in relation to those additional conditions that have been discussed, and obviously at the next meeting the committee obviously can make a decision whether they wish to proceed on that basis, if that's okay with members.
Can you go around? Go around.
Yeah, well, we just need. I think Councillor Marchington and Councillor Apple, have you moved and seconded that proposal?
They have.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go around on that basis then. On that basis then, Councillor Davis.
4.
Councillor Bellamy.
I'm really confused now. Well, I know it doesn't take a lot. So what we're voting for now, basically a deferral, and it come back with conditions rather than we've approved it.
Yeah, I think that when we took the first vote, I think members weren't aware of the additional conditions that obviously have been flagged by the officers. So whilst you've obviously voted and you're minded to approve, because you've now got the additional information in relation to those conditions, and obviously there is a continuing debate about that. I think what we're saying is that for committee members to have a further report which will go into more detail in relation to those additional conditions that have been highlighted, so you can then clarify whether you wish to proceed with those conditions as outlined earlier.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, no, I'm going to stick with my original approval. So no, I'm against this bit.
Thank you. Councillor Third, I'm assuming you're abstaining?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Homewood?
4.
Councillor Marchington?
4.
Councillor McGuinn?
Against.
Councillor Sarwar?
I'm confused as well, I think I'll stay with the original approval because don't want to go round and round for one thing, when 18 members have approved this item and everyone have read this report and everything was in the report and they are professional and sensible people and they made decision according to their report. So I don't think I'll change my mind now. I will stay with the original approval. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Smith?
I'm against. I'm going to stick with my original decision.
Councillor Sokol?
Against.
Councillor Allah?
I'm not confused. I think I've kind of like got it. It'll be eggs for breakfast tomorrow. Against or sticking to my original decision.
Okay. Councillor Apple?
4.
And Councillor Lyons?
Against.
Okay, so on that basis, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 members have voted for that motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 have voted against it. 1 abstention. So on that basis, the original approval remains. I'm unclear whether that actually includes those additional conditions or not. So I'll go back to officers on that one, please.
So that,
Andrea, if you could just clarify, please.
Yeah. Briefly. They're not. Well, as far as I'm concerned now, the meeting's over, and I thank you for your attendance. And would you please
point of order, please.
Please sign off.
Point of order. No, you can't just finish the meeting.
Why can't I finish the meeting?
Because there's procedural issues, Terry. We've got two speakers down before. I mean, Donald's indicated to speak. I've indicated to speak. So can we do that, please?
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that.
So, do you want to bring Councillor Firth back in then?
Who was the first? Yeah. Oh, Councillor Firth.
Right. I'd just like to speak and say all the information that was in our folder and the information sent for this meeting, there was none of that mentioned in the officer's remarks in there, or we'd have taken that into consideration, or you would have all taken, I would as well. But it wasn't there, so I think the people who have voted against it have done quite right, because you can't start altering things when a vote's been taken. Officers should know that, for goodness sake. I mean, I'm only a common councillor. I don't get paid a lot of money to be a planning officer, but they should know before it comes to a committee. You can't start when everybody's voted and they voted for something, then they start changing the rules. They can't do that. That's not permissible. And that's all I've got to say. Leave things as they are. You voted for what we wanted, and that's an end to it. No more, no less. Let's stop messing about with the planning rules and regulations, because if we do, they're probably only council country that does. End of story. Thank you. Thanks, Terry.
Councillor Martin.
Right. Can we? Right. So it's probably for discussion elsewhere, but we'll mention it in the meeting procedurally. So when it came to the vote, the officer had indicated about including additional recommendations before we were asked to vote. So that could have been discussed then. You, Terry, and we can check it in the recording, said we were going to discuss the conditions after the vote. That was indicated at that stage. So we can appreciate what members have done this afternoon and where we are. There's been a lot of agreement about accepting certainly the condition to remove the building after the cease of use, and some degree. So procedurally, you know, we could have handled this better this afternoon. So we need to look into that and for the future. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. We were given information afterwards. I've got to point the finger here at the officers and say when they knew they were going to lose the vote, and that was that. I do believe that is what happened.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
And I don't know if members agree with me, but that is the way I read it, and that is why I voted against.
Yeah. Can I just come in again, Councillor Lyons,
of course you
please?
Can.
Yeah. So like I said, the vote that was taken, as Councillor Marchington did actually point out, it was to approve the application, but then members were going to then discuss the conditions afterwards. So that is where officers have come in to sort of recommend to you the conditions which have been which are considered necessary and appropriate to impose if permission is granted. So like I said, that's where we had got.
We never done before that. We never done before.
The thing, yeah, and the thing is, if you're approving, like I say, without any conditions, then obviously that is something that members have the choice of doing. But officers would recommend the conditions which we've suggested in terms of removal of the building after the 6 months if it's not being used for agricultural purposes, and looking at the number of chickens accommodated within the building because of those amenity issues. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Who have we got to speak now? We're getting a list of speakers here now. I've lost track of the time with these. Is there further speakers?
Yes, I'd indicated,
well,
Terry.
We're looking up there.
So
right.
Yeah, Shake and I've indicated.
Right. Because they stack. Right. Well, fire away then Andrew.
I think we need to look at the procedure. We quite frequently, particularly when committee proposes something which is contrary to officer recommendation, discuss conditions being applied. at that stage. We've done that before, so it puzzles me why some members of the committee saying we don't do that. It's not been ideal. It's not ideal when we go through this and we're having to discuss conditions without the appropriate information in front of us. Although I think some of that information was there before, so I think it's a procedural thing that we perhaps need to look at. And we can review the meeting and review what was said at what stage and how we might improve on our decision making in the future. Thank you.
Only about restrictions, but Shea.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, my understanding is that of what you've expressed, Mr. Chairman, and that's how it felt like a little bit to me, that the vote was getting lost, office were scrambling round, and in the past we've had things like this, and I can give you applications where officers are just about to lose the vote, and then things are just railroaded in. They should have been in a report. If we wanted to avoid this, it should have been in the report. It should have all been there. We can't just go making conditions and limits of how, at the 11th hour. It's just not professional enough. Thank you.
Yeah, shake it right.
Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. Right, my way of thinking of this is we have discussed conditions before, but not. We've always discussed them before we've taken the vote.
Yeah.
And they've come through. Officers have all of a sudden thrown conditions at us, but always just before we've taken the vote. That hasn't happened this time. So my way of looking at this now is we have approved it without any conditions, and that is it, final. Yeah. That is exactly what we voted on, with no conditions. See, I don't think you can start then adding conditions on after you've taken a vote.
Absolutely, Donna.
So as far as I'm concerned, this has been approved. There isn't any conditions.
That's
the end of that what story. We've done. End of. So that's my way of looking at it.
I can't please everybody here. And I'm certainly not God. So, yes, Councillor Homewood.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a little bit concerned about the discussion we're just having here, because I think ultimately it doesn't really matter whose fault it was. It's how we get to the right solution and what procedures we follow. And I think it is a little bit unclear here, because the way the reports are written, obviously it's for refusal. Actually, when you look at when we approve applications, sometimes there's different things that we approve. So we approve delegation to officers to agree conditions sometimes, for example. So I think it is a little bit unclear from what we just process we just went through as to what we were actually agreeing and what we weren't. And I don't think it's sensible just to say, well, we agreed it, so we agreed it. And actually, I think we need to consider, well, there could be implications if we don't have the right conditions on an application. I don't think it's good enough just to say, well, so it happens, so be it. And I really don't understand the difficulty in allowing the officers to come back with a report that outlines those conditions, at which point we can determine whether or not we agree with that. And at the end of the day, the site is already there and in use. It isn't impacting on the applicant. It's just a slight delay in the formalisation. So I don't understand why we're taking this approach, but I think otherwise we're just going to be challenged on either side about the decisions that's made. So let's make it right.
I can accept that on the proviso that in future this does not happen again.
Absolutely,
I do believe
it's been confused because we're not in the same room, isn't it? What's happened, and we're learning about this process.
Yeah. Or my inexperience, but I'm even prepared to admit that. I think it's been a bit of a fastball as this one. So there we are. So we are where we are now, and where is that, Richard?
Well, at the moment, as things stand, we've had the two votes. Obviously, the second one motion fell, which was to bring the officer report back with those with the conditions, obviously that they outlined earlier. So the only vote at the moment that has actually been approved is the one to obviously approve. I think Sandra, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it is that we're not all in the same room, but that it is officer to, contrary to officer recommendation, it is green belt. So I really need to think we need to clarify the conditions.
Right. On that, Nobody else wishes to speak now. It's running on and on and on, is this?
We've just
No.
been given advice by the legal officer.
Yes. Well, if that's the advice from the legal officer. We've got to conform to that. As far as I'm concerned, we've got to go legally. Otherwise, we're not helping anybody, are we? Least of all ourselves. Least of all ourselves.
Right, so can I just confirm then, because I think we need to have a clear consensus, I think, from the committee in terms of what we're actually doing here. Do we need to actually get clarification that all committee members are happy with that proposal, that that a report comes back to the committee with those conditions included on them, for then the committee to have a proper discussion and debate before they make their final decision in terms of this particular application?
I wouldn't have the word happy. I would say reluctantly accept.
Or reluctantly accept.
That's the way I would phrase it.
I just feel that we need to have that consensus, I think, before before this meeting closes. But obviously, it's for members. I mean, we need to have sort of a proposal from members on that.
We are already, sorry, Chair, we already turned down the proposal. Why are we going back again now? I could not understand.
But we aren't going back. There's conditions. It's the condition.
The condition issue. We haven't refused that.
It has been accepted for the application. All it is now is these conditions, and there again, they will have to come back to us. And following the legal officer, I've got to go along with that. And I hope that, as I say, reluctantly accept that it comes back, but they've still got permission.
If Councillor Davis wants to come back.
If Councillor Davis wishes to come back.
Yeah, I was really following on from Councillor Homewood, but I think we've had even further clarification. I was going to make the point that certainly, from my view, I always appreciate listening to officers' recommendations and views and expert advice. Obviously, we make the decisions, and in particular, I wanted to hear the legal advice, and I think we've just had that legal advice. So I think it seems to be fairly clear. I know people are getting quite head up about this. I'm not really sure there's a need to do that, because it seems to me fairly simple. I don't think it's a matter of doing any sort of underhand tricks or trying to catch the applicant out. I think it's very clear that legal have said that we need to consider conditions. So it just seems fairly straightforward to me.
So where are we now with this?
I think we need legal guidance in terms of the next steps, in all honesty.
Right. Sandra.
Yeah. Well,
help us out.
Do you not want to discuss the conditions now that Julia and Emma were speaking about? You could do that now. Sorry, can you hear?
I can hear.
Yeah. In that Julia and Emma have both proposed conditions, do you not want to discuss them now?
I'd rather get this out of the way than prolong it, certainly.
Yeah.
I think
so
most
does Julia want to
members
come
will be
back
the
on the
same.
conditions?
But let's. Does Julia want to come back?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I think if we go back to the first condition recommended then, in terms of the removal of the building, if it's not being used for agricultural purposes for a specific period. So as officers, we were recommending within a 6-month period, if it's not being used for agricultural purposes, then it should be removed from the site. So this is a standard condition that has been used for a number of years. This is related to the justification that members have put forward in terms of the agricultural use of the building. So members felt that the justification for the building in the green belt is that it would be used for agricultural purposes. So that's that first condition. So do members, members want to comment first of all whether they think it is necessary to include that. So the building is purely used for those agricultural reasons, which is your justification for greenbelt development in this case. And secondly, in terms of the time frame for removal of the building, should it not be used for agricultural purposes? Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. I've got Councillor Marchington, Councillor Smith and Councillor Uller. So I'll start with Councillor Marchington again.
No, I think the officer's statement supersedes my interjection.
Right. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, first of all, I don't blame the officers for this. I think we've just had a mix-up procedurally, and you know it's probably in part to do with the new format that we're meeting in. However, we are where we are. I'm not happy about where we are, but Chair, is it possible for just to have two discrete votes on the two separate conditions, and then I don't want this coming back. I don't want the applicants to have to wait. I don't want to waste any more of the committee's time. So can we possibly have two separate votes on the two conditions and just add the ones that are voted through, or not?
So sensible.
Yes, I believe we can, unless the legal officer thinks we can't, or believes we can't, should I say.
No, I don't think there's any reason why you can't.
Right, thank you. Right, Councillor Uller, did you still want to speak?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Davies, did you want a final word?
Excuse me, go for it. It was only to say on the first condition has just been described. I'm not really sure why we would change a standard condition. I think what we'd need to highlight is why there are certain or special circumstances that we would change something which is applied as a standard across Kirklees. I'm just pointing that out. There may well be. There are special circumstances with regards to the shed.
This is the less contentious of the two, I believe. So we'll call the vote then on the.
Well, can we? I think before we do that, because we've got one vote will be in relation to the removal of the building within 6 months if it's not being used for agricultural purposes. So that's quite clear. Before we go to the second vote, is it worth Julia coming back and just confirming what the position is in terms with the numbers? Because I think that was the second one, wasn't it?
That's right. So through you, Chair. In terms of the second condition, that related to a restriction in the number of chickens which would be kept on site. The recommendation was to restrict it to 30 chickens on site for residential amenity reasons. So that's something what I think members want to discuss in terms of a reasonable number of chickens there, or whether you think that condition is actually necessary. So it's over to members to consider that. Thank you, Chair.
So we'll take the first one.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so I'll do this. So just to be clear, then this vote is for the additional condition of the removal of the building within a period of 6 months if it is no longer being used for agricultural purposes. If I could go to Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I vote in for.
Councillor Bellamy.
Abstain. Prefer longer.
Councillor Firth. Councillor Firth is abstaining, isn't he? Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Marchington.
For.
Gwynn.
Abstain.
Councillor Sawa.
For.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Sokol.
Abstain, Richard. Thank you.
Go back to Councillor Firth. Go back to Councillor Firth.
Councillor Firth.
He was muted.
He's not voting, is he?
Yeah, we just need confirmation.
Say that.
Yeah. Councillor Firth, can you just confirm you're abstaining, please?
He's on mute.
Abstention. Are you abstaining, Councillor Firth?
He's on mute.
Yes, I'm abstaining.
Thank you. Councillor Oller?
For.
Councillor Apple?
For.
And Councillor Lyons?
For.
Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for, 4 abstentions. So that condition is approved. I don't know if the you want to, well, I don't know if the committee want to discuss that number before we go to the vote, just in case there are other proposals.
I'll take your advice on that, Richard. And do members wish to contribute towards the figure? Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I think this is the most, if you like, controversial one. I think that there does need to be a limit. I think probably 30 does seem a little bit low, but certainly we don't want to leave it open-ended, in my view, because of where this is and possible issues. It doesn't look like the applicant is intending on developing something which is huge. And I'm no expert on keeping chickens, so I have no idea how many could fit in that shed safely, etc. But I think probably 30 does seem a bit low. But I have to admit, I've not got the expertise to put a number on that.
Did you indicate you wish to speak, Councillor Firth?
Yes, please. Well, there is a smallholders agricultural licence on that bit of land there, and it says that you can keep up to 500 hens. So 30 is a bit of a miserable. I don't think it would want to keep 500, but I think 30 is a bit miserable, really. You know, and I would have actually supported the last one if they'd extended it to 6 to 12 months. You know, this is all. I've never heard of this before. I'll be honest with you, I have never heard of this, where an agricultural building, if not in use, has to be pulled down within 6 months. Because if that's the case, there's up to 5 barns up and down need pulling down. Simple as that.
Councillor Homewood.
Thanks, Chair. Just referring to the report, there's obviously some reference here under environmental health to this point. It refers to there being no objections, but there should be a condition in terms of the number. It also refers to the type of chickens kept and the waste management plan provided. So obviously the office has referred to 30. It doesn't say that in the report, so I don't know whether that has come from discussions with environmental health further in terms of the number and the type. Maybe it depends, I don't know, how big they are depending on type of, maybe that's to do with it, I don't know. And also the waste management plan, whether they actually have one that's suitable for more than 30. So I mean, I'm more than happy to go with 30 if that is the advice that's being given us to environmental health, and I presume that the applicant has the opportunity to put in a further application if this somehow wish to expand that. So I'm more than happy to go that, but it would be good just to understand how that figure's been come to.
We'll come to Julia now. Julia wishes to speak. And then it's
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McGuinn.
Yeah, so in terms of the number there, in the heritage statement that was submitted with the applicant's application, they confirmed in there that the holding has 30 hybrid hens and that they produce around about 28 eggs each day. So that's in terms of where the numbers come from, because they currently have the 30 hybrid hens there at this moment in time. So in terms of the waste management, the applicant has submitted a waste management plan with their application, and officers we are satisfied with that. So that could either be tied under as a condition setting out that the development's carried out in accordance with the plans and the supporting information, which is once again a standard condition there. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, would 50 upset everything? Julia, would 50 upset everything?
Chair, I don't know if you're asking me or members then. Through you, Chair. I think, like I say, in terms of 50 hens, if members felt that they would have, I suppose, that limited impact on the amenity of those surrounding occupants, and you're comfortable with that, and that it's covered as part of that waste management plan, which I'd have thought it would be, if members want to
Thank you.
go down that route. Yeah.
That-
Okay.
Thank you. Right.
Can I
who have we
propose
got
50?
now?
I
Okay.
think Councillor McGuinn.
Well, Councillor McGuinn. Yes, it is Councillor McGuinn.
Aye, Terry. We're going to write. I thought the original, we were just talking about the shed itself. Now, if I've read the report correctly, it's saying it should only be 30 in that shed. And we're talking about numbers. I don't think if we're only talking about the shed, it should only be 30 because that's what's laid down, and we're getting all mixed up here because Donald has pointed out he's got a holding license where he can have up to 500, and we've accepted the principle that he can have the shed. More hens, surely he'd have to. Does he need another shed? I know that's muddying the waters. It's totally confusing, all this.
Councillor Homewood.
Yeah, Chair, can I make a suggestion that based on what Julia's just said there, that in terms of this final condition, we delegate that to the officers to agree between the applicant themselves and environmental health on the proviso that it's no less than 30 chickens that can be kept there, and they come to an agreed number, because it does feel a little bit stabbing in the dark, because I think the 30's just come from the number that the applicants have or had. So I think we just allow the officers to go away and confirm that in conjunction with environmental health on the basis that it's no less than 30, which is what the applicant has requested. I don't think it's worth us having a debate about chickens when we've got absolutely no idea what the environmental consequences or health consequences are. It's not really helpful, is it?
Happy to support that.
Are there any further speakers? Good God. It's a real chicken run, is this? My gosh. Right.
Okay. So
what are we with now?
As I understand it, Councillor Homewood has moved that this condition is delegated to officers to consider the number of hens that can be kept on the proviso there's no less than 30. So it falls in accordance with the waste management plan and is obviously done in conjunction with the environmental health. And Councillor Marchington has seconded that proposal. So if you're happy to go to the vote on that basis, then we can go ahead.
Yes, I think we need to get this away as fast as we can now.
Okay.
If you'd like to go round.
I will. So on that basis, if I could have your vote, please, Councillor Davis.
For.
Councillor Bellamy.
Against.
Councillor Firth, can you just confirm if you're abstaining, please?
He's done a runner.
Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Marchington.
For.
Councillor McGuinn.
On mute.
I said I'm not going to chicken out. Against.
Councillor Sarwar.
For.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Sokol.
Chair, I still stand by. These conditions should have been taken into the previous, before we took the vote or original vote. So I'm still not happy with this. So I'm abstaining on this one. Thank you.
Councillor Allah.
Abstain.
Councillor Arpel.
For.
Councillor Lyons.
For.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for, 2 against, 2 abstentions. So that condition has been carried, and that's it, Chair, I think.
Finally, thank you very much for your attendance, and please sign off now. Finally.
Thanks, Terry. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.